A millionaire rescues a homeless mother and her son after an unexpected fainting spell. Days later, he notices a large scar on the woman's hand. But something about that mark makes your mind connect the dots and trigger an unsettling memory. What he discovers about her past changes everything he believed to be true. If this story interests you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, tell us which city you're watching us from, and we'll keep going. The rain was beating down on the city that June night, turning the streets of the financial center into reflecting pools of water that reflected the lights of the skyscrapers. On the 45th floor of the most imposing building on the avenue, Luca watched the storm through the windows of his corporate penthouse. At 38 years old, he had built an empire that made billions. But on that particular night, something was bothering him differently. His fingers drummed on the black marble table as he reread the figures from the group's latest acquisition for the third time. The company had just bought a hospital chain for 2.3 billion reais, but there was something in the reports that didn't add up. Luca was known for his almost supernatural ability to find inconsistencies in endless spreadsheets, a skill that had taken him to the top of the corporate world. Mr. Luca, the voice of Diana, his assistant for more than a decade, came over the intercom. "Here, it's already after 11 p.m. The driver is waiting in the basement." Luca sighed, running his hands over his clean-shaven face. He hadn't realized it was so late. "You can dismiss the driver, Diana. I'll be driving today." "But it's raining heavily, sir." "Are you sure?" "I do. You should go home too. You've worked enough for today." After turning off the intercom, Luca methodically organized his desk, each document in its specific folder, each pen in its designated place. Order was his obsession, his safe haven in a world he had learned from an early age to be chaotic and unpredictable. He rode down to the garage in his private elevator, his Italian shoes clicking on the marble floor. His black Porsche Panamera awaited him, as elegant and understated as its owner. Luca adjusted the leather seat, started the car, and drove off into the stormy night. The drive to his mansion in Jardins normally took 20 minutes at this hour, but the heavy rain forced him to drive more cautiously. The streets were practically deserted, except for a few persistent taxis and delivery men on motorcycles. It was then that, as he walked down the street, something caught his attention. A figure on the sidewalk near one of the most expensive boutiques in the city. Luca would normally not stop. He had learned that emotional involvement was synonymous with weakness in the business world. But something about the scene made him slow down. Beneath a storefront, a woman lay on the sidewalk. She didn't look like an ordinary homeless woman. Her clothes, though wet and worn, were of good quality. And in her arms, she held something that made Luca's heart ache, a baby wrapped in a blanket. "Don't get involved," his rational mind screamed. But for the first time in years, Luca ignored that voice. He parked the car and, shielding himself from the rain with his designer umbrella, approached cautiously. The woman was unconscious, but breathing. The baby, a boy who couldn't have been more than a few months old, was shivering and hot, clearly with a fever. Luca touched the woman's face. It was cold from the rain. Her features were delicate, and even in that vulnerable state, there was a dignity in her expression that intrigued him. It was then that he noticed something that disturbed him even more, an old scar that ran down her arm, partially hidden by the sleeve of her blouse. The mark was no accident. Someone had done it on purpose. Luca had built his life on rational, calculated decisions. Nothing he did was impulsive. But that night, looking at that strange woman and her sick baby, he did something completely out of character. Carefully, he picked up the baby first, placing him in the back seat of the Porsche. He returned to fetch the woman, carrying her in his arms. She was surprisingly light, as if she carried not only the physical weight, but also the weight of a history Luca had yet to learn. As he drove toward his mansion, looking in the rearview mirror at the now sleeping baby and the unconscious woman, Luca could not imagine that impulsive decision would completely change the course of his life. That rainy night would be just the beginning of a story that would unearth long-hidden secrets and force him to confront a past he thought he had left behind. What he didn't know was that the woman in the back seat of his car had a name, Anna, and that she carried with her a connection to his past that would make his carefully constructed world crumble like a house of cards. Anna slowly opened her eyes, feeling the soft Egyptian cotton sheets against her skin. For a moment, she was completely disoriented. The high ceiling with its elaborate moldings, the crystal chandelier, the soft scent of lavender in the air, it all seemed like it belonged in a dream or in one of the home decor magazines she used to leaf through on her free afternoons. Reality hit her like a bolt of lightning. Leo, where was her son? She sat up abruptly in the king-size bed, ignoring the dizziness that had overcome her. That was when she heard the soft sound of a musical mobile coming from the other side of the room. There was Leo, sleeping peacefully in a crib that looked like it had come straight out of a luxury furniture catalogue. A middle-aged woman in an impeccable uniform was delicately adjusting the temperature of the air conditioning. "Ah, you're awake," the woman smiled kindly. "I'm Mia, the housekeeper. Dr. Charles just checked little Leo. His fever has gone down, but he recommended that we continue with the medication for a few more days." Anna staggered to her feet, walking over to the crib. Leo was sleeping, peacefully, his cheeks not as red as she remembered the last time she saw him. His small hands were clutching the new blanket, a far cry from the one she had gotten from a donation. Where are we?" Anna asked, her voice hoarse. "At Mr. Luca's residence," Ms. Mia replied. "He found you last night in the rain. He brought you here and called the doctor immediately." The name sounded vaguely familiar to Anna, as if she must have recognized it from somewhere. Before she could ask more, the bedroom door opened. A tall man in an impeccably tailored suit stepped into the room. His deep blue eyes met hers with disconcerting intensity. "I see you're awake," he said, his voice low and controlled. "I'm Luca. I found you and your son passed out on Oscar Freire last night." Anna instinctively placed herself between the crib and the new arrival. Years of experience had taught her to be wary of any help, especially from wealthy men. "Why did you bring us here?" "Your son had a high fever. You were unconscious in the rain." "What would be the alternative?" Luca replied, a slight tone of irritation in his voice. "Could have taken us to a hospital and leave you to the mercy of the public system. I preferred to bring you here, where I could ensure the best medical care possible." He paused, studying her. "Besides, I imagine you have your reasons for not wanting to appear in official records." Anna felt a shiver run down her spine. "How did he—" "Don't worry," Luca continued as if reading her thoughts. "I didn't ask the doctor any questions and he's discreet. You can stay here until Leo is fully recovered." "We don't need charity," Anna replied, lifting her chin. A wry smile appeared on Luca's lips. "I'm not offering charity. I'm offering a practical solution to a temporary situation. Whether you accept it or not is your choice. But think of your son before you let your pride get the better of you." Before Anna could respond, Leo began to cry. She immediately turned to pick him up, her maternal instincts overriding any other thoughts. When she turned back around, Luca had already left the room. Mrs. Mia approached with a breakfast tray worthy of a five-star hotel. "Mr. Luca may seem cold, but he has a good heart. He spent all night in the office calling doctors and making sure we had everything the baby could possibly need." Anna looked down at Leo, who was now nursing peacefully at her breast. His temperature was normal, and for the first time in weeks he seemed truly comfortable. Luca's proposal made sense, as much as she hated to admit it. A few days of safety would give her time to think about her next move. What Anna didn't know was that at that very moment, Luca was in his office staring at an old newspaper article on his tablet. The headline from 15 years ago told of a tragic accident in the same area where his business empire now stood. In the faded photo, a 12-year-old girl, the sole survivor, had the same determined eyes as the woman who now occupied one of the rooms in his mansion. Luca closed the tablet, feeling the weight of a past he thought he had buried forever. Fate apparently had other plans. The following days in the mansion established a peculiar routine. Anna observed everything and everyone with attentive eyes like a cornered animal, analyzing every movement around it. The luxury of the place suffocated her. The expensive paintings on the walls, the Persian rugs. The antiques that certainly cost more than she had ever earned in her entire life. Luca, for his part, kept a measured distance. He left early for the office and returned late, but Anna noticed his gaze when he watched her and Leo in the garden through the windows of his private library. There was something in that gaze that disturbed her, a mixture of curiosity and guilt. One particularly sunny morning, Anna decided to explore the gardens with Leo. The baby was completely recovered, laughing and trying to catch the butterflies that danced among the meticulously cultivated flowers. That was when she heard voices coming from Luca's office, whose window was half open. "You need to tell her, Luca," a female voice said. Anna recognized it as Lena, Luca's sister, who occasionally visited the mansion. "It's not that simple," Luca replied, his voice strained. "Simple? Nothing about this story is simple. You brought her into your home without knowing who she was. And now that I've found out, it's even more complicated," Luca interrupted her. "How do you expect me to go up to her and say—" Anna pulled away quickly, her heart pounding. What were they talking about? What had Luca found out about her? Did he know about Tony, about her escape, about— His thoughts were interrupted by Lady Mia, who appeared carrying a tray of tea. "Miss Anna, I'm so glad I found you. I've put together some clothes that might fit you. They're in your room." Anna followed the housekeeper, still disturbed by the conversation she had overheard. In the room, she found several designer clothes, all with tags attached. "I can't accept this," she said immediately. "Boss's orders," Madame Mia replied simply. "He said you need to wear suitable clothes to go out with the baby." "Leave, but—" "Yes, for the pediatrician's appointment tomorrow. Doctor, Charles wants to monitor Leo's recovery." Anna sat up in bed, holding Leo closer. Luca's generosity frightened her more than any direct threat. She had learned the hard way that kindness often came at a high price. That night, while Leo slept, Anna decided to take a breath of fresh air in the garden. The night was pleasant, and she needed to gather her thoughts. That was when she noticed a light on in the library. Through the window, she saw Luca sitting in his leather chair, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring intently at something on his desk. Driven by a curiosity she couldn't contain, Anna approached silently. On Luca's desk, there was an open folder with old documents and next to it a photograph that made his blood run cold. It was her, much younger, next to her parents, the last photo they took together before the accident that took them away. The pool. Jacques made her take a false step, and her movement caught Luca's attention. Their gazes met through the window, his filled with guilt, hers with incomprehension and growing fear. "Anna." He stood up, but she had already turned around and was running back into the house. Luca caught up with her in the hallway. "Wait, I can explain." "Explain what?" She turned, trembling. "Why do you have a picture of my family? Why are you investigating my past?" "Because I needed to be sure," he replied, his voice husky. "Sure about what?" Luca ran his hand through his hair, a rare gesture of nervousness. "That you really were the girl from that night, the Monroe daughter." Anna felt the air leave her lungs. "How do you know about my parents?" The silence that followed was deafening. Luca seemed to be fighting an internal battle, his blue eyes darkened by painful memories. When he finally spoke, his voice was thick with an emotion Anna had never noticed before. "Because I was there that night, Anna, the night of the accident." Anna took a step back, her back meeting the wall of the hallway. The pieces were beginning to fall into place in a way she wasn't ready to accept. The empire had begun its rise just after that year. The accident that had never been fully solved. The driver who fled the scene. "It was you," she whispered, realization hitting her like a punch. "You were there. You—" Leo's cry echoed through the hallway, cutting through the moment like a knife. Anna automatically turned toward the sound, her maternal instincts momentarily overcoming the whirlwind of emotions. "Anna," Luca called, his voice almost pleading, "let me explain, please." But she was already running toward the bedroom, leaving Luca standing in the hallway, the weight of 15 years of secrets finally coming to light. The night dragged on like an eternity for both of them. Anna, locked in the room with Leo, alternated between rocking her son and fighting the memories that now came back with full force. The sound of twisted metal, the screams, the smell of burning rubber on the asphalt. 15 years later, the memories were still too vivid. Downstairs, Luca stood in his library, the bottle of whiskey nearly untouched in front of him. It wasn't his style to drink to forget. He'd built an empire on staying in control. But now, for the first time in years, he felt like everything was slipping through his fingers. The sun was already beginning to rise when Anna came down the stairs, carrying a small backpack and Leo in her arms. She found Luca exactly where she imagined, sitting in his leather armchair looking like he hadn't slept at all. "We're leaving," she announced, her voice steady despite the deep circles under her eyes. Luca stood up immediately. "Anna, you don't have to do this. Let me at least..." "At least what?" she interrupted him, years of pain contained in her words. "Explain why you ran away that night. Why you left a 12-year-old girl alone with her parents trapped in the wreckage." "I was a different person back then," Luca replied, his voice low. "I was involved with dangerous people collecting debts. When I saw the accident..." "You ran away," Anna finished bitterly, "like a coward." "Yes," he admitted, surprising her with his honesty. "I ran away because I was a coward, because I was afraid of facing the consequences. And I've spent the last 15 years trying to convince myself that that night didn't haunt me." Anna adjusted Leo in her arms, the baby still sleeping peacefully. "And it worked? Did you manage to forget?" Luca took a step toward her, stopping when he saw her instinctively recoil. "No. Every achievement, every company I bought, every floor I climbed in that building, it was all built on the guilt of that night. And now, what do you intend to do? Buy me with your charity to ease your conscience?" "It's not charity, Anna. What is it?" "A chance," he replied after a moment. "A chance to do the right thing, even if it's 15 years too late." Anna laughed humorlessly. The right thing to do would have been to stop that night, to call for help, Her voice broke and she took a deep breath, trying to keep control. Luca took advantage of the moment to continue. "You're right. I should have done things differently that night. I can't change the past, but I can try to do something now. Leo still needs medical attention. You need a safe place to stay, especially with..." He stopped abruptly, but Anna completed the thought. "With Tony looking for me." "Yeah, you looked into that too, didn't you?" Luca didn't deny it. "I know your ex-husband has dangerous connections. I know you ran away from him to protect Leo. That's why you avoid hospitals and official records." Anna felt her legs weaken. It was exhausting, always on guard, always running away. Leo began to stir in her arms, ready to wake up for his first feeding of the day. "Stay," Luca urged, his voice softer. "Not for me, not out of pity or guilt. Stay because it's the safest thing for you and Leo right now. Let me help you build a new life, away from Tony, away from all the harm they've done to you." "How? Can I trust you?" she asked, and there was a vulnerability in her voice that made Luca's heart clench. "I'm not asking for your trust now. I'm just asking for a chance to prove that I'm not the man who ran away that night." Leo began to cry, breaking the tension of the moment. Anna looked at her son, then at the backpack on her shoulder, and finally at Luca. 15 years of pain, anger, and unanswered questions weighed on her decision. "A week," she finally said. "I'll stay for a week until Leo finishes his treatment. Then we'll decide." Luca nodded, knowing it was more than he deserved. As he watched Anna walk up the stairs with Leo, he realized that this week would only be the beginning. There was so much more at stake than just redemption. There was a chance to make a difference in the life of someone he had inadvertently wronged so badly in the past. What he didn't know yet was that fate had much more complex plans for all of them, and that the truth revealed that morning was just the first of many that would still come to light. The week that followed established a tense routine at the mansion. Anna and Luca danced a silent waltz of avoidance, seeing each other only when necessary, mainly during the pediatrician's visits to check on Leo. The baby, oblivious to the emotional storm that surrounded him, flourished under their constant care, his smiles brightening even the darkest moments. One particularly hot afternoon, Anna was in the garden with Leo when Luca's sister, Lena, unexpectedly appeared. Unlike her brother, Lena had a warm presence that disarmed any defenses. "He's always been like this, you know," Lena commented, watching Leo play with a rattle, trying to fix things his way, even when he doesn't know how. Anna adjusted the hat that shielded Leo from the sun. "Some things can't be fixed with money." "No, they can't," Lena agreed, surprising Anna. "But sometimes money is the only tool he knows. Luca, he's changed a lot since that night." "Like this?" Lena hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "After the accident, he obsessively built this empire. Every deal, every acquisition was like he was trying to prove something. To himself, maybe, or maybe to make up for it." "What did he do?" Anna finished bitterly. "Yes, but there's something you need to know about that night." Lena lowered her voice. "Something not even Luca fully knows." Before they could continue, they were interrupted by the arrival of an agitated Lady Mia. "Miss Hannah, there's a man at the reception saying he's your husband." Anna's blood ran cold. Tony. How had he found her? Lena immediately noticed the change in Anna. "Mrs. Mia, take Leo inside. Anna, come with me." From the library window they watched. The man at the main gate. Tony was thinner than Anna remembered, but his aggressive posture remained the same. He gestured violently at the security guard, demanding entry. "Is that him?" Lena asked softly. Anna just nodded, her fingers unconsciously touching the scar on her arm. "I'll call Luca," Lena decided, picking up her cell phone. "No!" Anna stopped her. "I've caused enough trouble for your family." "Anna, listen." Lena held her hands. "That man out there, he's the problem, not you." At that moment, Luca walked into the library, his face a mask of controlled concern. "Lena called me on the way. Is he still there?" "It is," Lena confirmed, "and it's getting more aggressive." Luca stepped closer to the window, watching the scene for a moment. His jaw was set, and Anna recognized the same expression he wore when he closed important deals. "Anna," he turned to her, "trust me just this once. Let me handle this." There was something different in his tone. It wasn't a plea based on guilt or obligation, but a genuine concern that Anna hadn't expected to see. "He won't give up easily," she warned. "Tony has connections, people who—" "And I have more," Luca interrupted her gently. "Let me use my resources for something that really matters." Anna looked at Lena, who nodded encouragingly. After a moment that felt like an eternity, she agreed. Luca walked out of the library with determined steps, leaving Anna and Lena watching him approach the gate. The conversation that followed was short and intense. Even from a distance, it was possible to see the change in Tony's posture, from aggressive to defensive, and finally, defeated. When Luca returned, he found Anna sitting on the library couch, trembling slightly. "He won't bother you anymore," he assured her. "My lawyers are preparing a restraining order, and I've already arranged for him to be monitored." "How?" Anna asked, her voice small. "I have my ways," Luca replied simply. "Legal ways," he added, seeing her expression. "Years of building an empire have their advantages." Lena, who had been watching the interaction with interest, cleared her throat discreetly. "I'm going to go check on Leo." When they were alone, the silence fell heavily between them. It was Anna who broke it. "Why are you doing all this?" Luca walked over, sitting in the opposite chair. "Because 15 years ago I was a coward. Today I'm not anymore." "It's not just guilt," Anna observed. "There's something more." Luca studied her for a moment as if deciding how much to reveal. "Maybe it's because for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can make a difference in someone's life. Not with money or power, but simply being present, doing the right thing, not because you have to, but because it's the right thing to do." Anna felt something shift inside her. It wasn't forgiveness. It was too soon for that. But maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of an understanding. Autumn arrived in the city, bringing a cooler breeze and subtle changes to the mansion. After the incident with Tony, something had changed in the dynamic between Anna and Luca. It wasn't exactly trust, but a kind of silent truce that allowed for less tense moments of coexistence. One evening, while Anna was rocking Leo in the conservatory, Luca appeared carrying an antique wooden box. His normally controlled face showed an unusual vulnerability. "I found this today," he said, placing the box on the coffee table. "They're documents from the time of the accident. I think you have a right to see them." Anna settled the sleeping Leo into the baby carrier and approached cautiously. Inside the box were newspaper clippings, old documents, and photographs. Her hands trembled as she picked up one photo in particular, her parents smiling in front of their old house. "Why did you keep all this?" she asked, her voice a whisper. Luca sat in the opposite chair, his fingers drumming nervously on the armrest. "Because I could never really move on. Every professional achievement, every million added to the bank account. It all felt empty when I thought back to that night." Anna was leafing through the documents when something caught her eye. A police report that had never been included in the official inquiry. "What's this?" she asked, quickly reading the contents. Luca leaned forward. "That's the part of the story no one knows. The man I was arguing with that night, he wasn't just a debtor. Like this? His name was William Mendez. He was an executive at the bank where I worked at the time. I discovered that he was embezzling money from pension funds, harming thousands of people." Anna looked up from the document, surprised. "You were confronting him about this?" "Yes, I had evidence. I was going to report him. The argument in the street, and I wasn't collecting debts for criminals as everyone thought. I was trying to stop him from fleeing the country with the stolen money." The silence that followed was heavy. Anna processed the new information, re-examining her memories of that night in a new light. "Why didn't you ever tell the police about this?" Luca ran his hands over his face, looking suddenly exhausted. "Because when I saw the accident, when I realized what had happened, I panicked. William took advantage of the confusion and disappeared. If I had stayed, if I had explained, it would have been different," Anna finished, her voice less harsh than usual. "Maybe. But I chose to run, and that decision haunted me for 15 years. After that, I vowed to use my financial knowledge to do things the right way. Every company I bought, every deal I closed, was with the goal of creating something legitimate, something that could actually help people." Anna looked at Leo, sleeping peacefully. "Lena mentioned that there was something about that night that even you didn't fully understand. What did she mean?" Luca frowned. "Lena said that. She never—" He was interrupted by Lady Mia, who hurried into the winter garden. "Mr. Luca, sorry to interrupt, but Ms. Lena is on the phone. She says it's urgent." Luca answered the call right there, his face changing expression as he listened. When he hung up, he was visibly distraught. "What happened?" Anna asked, feeling a tightness in her chest. "Lena found out something about William Mendez." Luca paused, choosing his words. "He's back in town, and apparently he has some connection to Tony." Anna felt the blood run cold in her veins. "What do you mean?" "I don't have all the details yet, but Lena found out that Tony worked for one of the shell companies William used to launder money. And what's more, it sounds like they're planning something, and it might have to do with you." Anna instinctively approached Leo. Luca, sensing her fear, stood up and closed the distance between them. "I won't let anything happen to you," he said, his voice firm. "Not this time." For the first time since they had met, Anna did not doubt her words. The man in front of her was no longer the frightened young man who had run away that rainy night. He was someone who, despite his mistakes, had learned the value of courage. What neither of them knew was that the revelations of that night were only the beginning. The past they had been trying so hard to understand was about to knock on their door in a way neither of them could have foreseen. The days following the revelation about William Mendez brought a new dynamic to the mansion. Luca, determined to protect Anna and Leo, increased the security of the property. Additional cameras were installed, and discreet guards patrolled the perimeter day and night. For Anna, the feeling was mixed. On the one hand, it felt safer. On the other, it was a constant reminder of the danger that still lurked around them. One particularly busy afternoon, Anna found Luca in his office, surrounded by piles of documents and with dark circles under his eyes that betrayed sleepless nights. "You need to rest," she said, surprising herself with the concern in her voice. Luca looked up, a tired smile on his lips. "Rest is a luxury I can't afford right now, not while William and Tony are out there plotting who knows what." Anna sat in the chair in front of the table, cradling Leo on her lap. The baby, oblivious to the tension around him, was playing excitedly with a teddy bear. "What exactly are you looking for in these documents?" she asked curiously. Luca sighed, running a hand through his tousled hair. "Anything that might give us an edge. Old records, suspicious transactions, patterns of behavior. Lena's using her media contacts to pull information together, but it's like looking for a needle in a haystack." It was then that Leo, in a sudden movement, knocked a stack of papers off the table. While Anna apologized and tried to collect the documents, something caught her attention. "Wait," she said, picking up a particular leaf. "I know that name." Luca leaned in, curious. "What name?" "Mary Alves." Anna pointed to a name on a list of bank transactions. "She was a friend of my mother's. She used to visit us when I was a child." Luca frowned, taking the document. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. I remember her because she would always sneak sweets in for me, even when my mum said I couldn't have sugar before dinner." Luca typed something quickly on his computer, his eyes scanning the screen intently. "Anna," he said after a moment, his voice tense. "Mary Alves was one of the main investors in the funds that William Mendez managed." "What? But that doesn't make sense. Mary was a teacher. She didn't have that much money." "Unless—" Luca hesitated, as if afraid to complete the thought. "Unless what?" "Unless she was just a front, a name used to move money without arousing suspicion." Anna felt a chill run down her spine. "But that would mean that there was possibly a connection between your family and William Mendez's business," Luca added softly. "A connection that perhaps not even your parents knew about." The silence that followed was interrupted only by the happy sounds of Leo, who continued to play, oblivious to the growing tension in the room. "That doesn't make sense," Anna muttered, more to herself than to Luca. "My parents were simple, honest people." Luca stood, coming around the table to approach her. "Anna, this doesn't mean your parents were involved in anything illicit. It could be that Mary used their friendship without them knowing." "But why? Why my parents?" Before Luca could respond, the phone on his desk rang. He answered it quickly, his face growing more tense with each passing second of the conversation. When he hung up, his eyes met Anna's with a mixture of concern and determination. "It was Lena," he said. "She found out something. William Mendez was seen entering a hotel downtown, and he wasn't alone." "Tony?" Anna asked, her heart racing. Luca shook his head. "No, I was with a woman. A woman who, according to Lena's description, looks a lot like Mary Alves." Anna felt the world spin around her. The pieces of the puzzle began to fit together, forming a picture she wasn't sure she wanted to see. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Luca knelt beside her, his gaze meeting hers with an intensity that made her heart leap. "Now, we find out the truth, together, no matter where it takes us." At that moment, looking into Luca's eyes, Anna realized that something had irreversibly changed between them. The man she had blamed for so long had now become her most unlikely ally in the search for answers. And as Leo laughed, oblivious to the whirlwind of emotions and revelations around him, Anna and Luca silently sealed a pact to unravel the mysteries of the past, no matter how painful the truths might be. What they didn't yet know was that each step toward these truths would bring them closer, not only to the answers they sought, but also to each other in ways neither could have foreseen. The decision to confront Mary Alves was not taken lightly. Luca and Anna spent days debating the pros and cons, while Lena used her contacts to track the woman's movements. Finally, one Thursday afternoon, the opportunity arose. "She's alone in the cafe at the Maksud Plaza Hotel," Lena reported over the phone. "It's now or never." Luca looked at Anna, who was holding Leo close to her chest. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Anna nodded, determined. "I need to know the truth, no matter how painful it is." The drive to the hotel was tense. Luca drove in silence, occasionally casting worried glances at Anna in the passenger seat. Leo slept peacefully in the back seat, oblivious to the tension in the air. When they arrived, Luca handed the keys to the valet and turned to Anna. "Remember, if at any point you feel uncomfortable, we will find a way to get you out immediately." Anna took a deep breath, shifting Leo in her arms. "I'm ready." The hotel cafe was relatively empty at that time of the afternoon. It wasn't hard to spot Mary. She was sitting by the window, an untouched cup of tea in front of her. When she saw Anna approaching, her eyes widened in recognition and fear. "Anna?" Mary whispered, standing up abruptly. "My, how you've grown." "Hello, Mary," Anna replied, her voice surprisingly steady. "I think we have a lot to talk about." Luca pulled out a chair for Anna, standing protectively beside her. Mary looked at him, then at the baby in Anna's arms, clearly confused. "Who?" "This is Luca," Anna interrupted, "and this is my son Leo." Mary sat up slowly as if her legs could no longer support her. "Anna, I don't know where to begin." "How about starting with this?" Luca suggested, his voice controlled but firm. "Maybe explaining your connection to William Mendez." The name made Mary pale visibly. "How did you—" "It doesn't matter how we know," Anna interjected. "I want to know why. Why my parents? What did they have to do with any of this?" Mary closed her eyes for a moment, as if gathering her courage. When she opened them again, they were filled with tears. "Your parents didn't know anything, Anna. They were innocent in all of this. It was me. It was me who involved them without them knowing." Anna felt a lump form in her throat. "How?" "Had been working for William for years. At first it was just a few favors, using my account for a few transactions. But I soon realized I was involved in something much bigger and much more dangerous." Luca leaned forward. "The pension funds." Mary nodded sadly. "Among other things, when things started to get complicated, William needed clean names, people above suspicion, and God forgive me, I suggested your parents." Anna felt like she had been punched in the stomach. "You used my parents as pawns." "They never knew," Mary insisted, tears streaming down her face. "I forged documents, used their information to open accounts, all without them ever suspecting." Luca placed a comforting hand on Anna's shoulder, who was visibly shaking. "What about the accident? Was it really an accident?" Mary paled even more. "Do you know about this?" "I was there that night," Luca admitted, his voice thick with guilt, "confronting William." "My God," Mary whispered, "so it was you?" Anna looked from one to the other, confused. "What's going on? What aren't you telling me?" Mary took a deep breath, seeming to make a decision. "Anna, the accident wasn't really an accident." The world seemed to stop for a moment. Anna felt the air leave her lungs. "What?" "William found out someone was about to turn him in," Mary continued, looking at Luca. "He panicked. He thought his parents had somehow found out the truth and were going to turn him in. He had the car sabotaged." Anna felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. Leo, sensing his mother's agitation, began to whimper. Luca quickly picked up the baby, allowing Anna to stagger to her feet. "Did you know?" she asked, her voice a mix of pain and fury. "Did you know this all along?" Mary lowered her head, unable to face Anna's accusing gaze. "I found out later. When I realized what had happened, what I had caused, I couldn't bear it. I ran away, I changed my name, I tried to start over, far away from all of this." "But now you're back," Luca interjected, rocking Leo gently. "Why?" Mary looked up, a gleam of determination emerging through her tears. "Because William is planning something big, something that could hurt a lot of innocent people. And I can't let that happen again. I can't carry this guilt anymore." Anna, who had taken a few steps away, slowly turned around. "What exactly as William planning. A scam, Mary replied, her voice low. In the stock market. Something that could destabilize the entire country's economy. And he's using information from your family, Anna. Information I helped collect years ago. Luca exchanged a meaningful look with Anna. The pieces of the puzzle were finally starting to fall into place. William's return, Tony's involvement, Mary's presence. We have to stop him, Anna declared, her voice steady despite the tears that threatened to fall. Luca nodded, passing Leo back into Anna's arms. And we will. But first, we need every detail you can give us, Mary. Every name, every date, every transaction. Mary looked from Luca to Anna, seeing a determination in them that both frightened and inspired her. I'll tell you everything. It's the least I can do after all this time. As Mary began her detailed confession, Anna held Leo close to her chest, feeling the comforting warmth of her son. Luca at her side placed a hand on her back, a silent gesture of support and promise. At that moment, amidst the pain of the revelations and the weight of the truth, something new began to emerge, an unlikely partnership forged by adversity and solidified by the search for justice. What they didn't know yet was that this quest would take them to places they never imagined, testing not only their courage, but also the feelings that, slowly, but inevitably, began to blossom between them. The days following Mary's revelation were a whirlwind of activity. Luca turned one of the mansion's rooms into a makeshift operations center, with whiteboards covering the walls, covered with names, dates, and connections. Anna, determined to understand every detail of William's scheme, spent hours poring over documents and financial reports. Lena, using her network of journalistic contacts, continued to track William and Tony's movements. The tension was palpable, as if everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the next move. One particularly stressful afternoon, Anna found Luca hunched over a stack of documents, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Find something?" she asked, arranging Leo in her arms. Luca looked up, a tired smile on his lips. "Maybe, look at this." He pointed to a complex chart on the computer screen. William's been moving large sums of money through a series of shell companies. The pattern suggests he's gearing up for something big, probably next week. Anna leaned in to get a better look, her shoulder brushing lightly against Luca's. They both felt an electric shock at the contact, but neither pulled away. "What can we do?" she asked, her voice thick with determination. Luca turned to face her, their faces now dangerously close. "We have to act before he does, but to do that, we'll need help." At that moment, Lena entered the room, interrupting the tense moment between them. "I have news," she announced, her tone urgent. "Tony was seen leaving the stock exchange headquarters. It seems he has contacts inside." Luca swore under his breath. "This complicates things. If they have someone on the inside, we're running out of time." Anna bit her lip thoughtfully. What if we used this to our advantage?" Luca and Lena turned to her, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Luca asked. "Tony knows me. He knows my weaknesses, my fears. What if I reached out to him?" "Absolutely not," Luca exclaimed, standing up abruptly. "It's too dangerous." "But think about it," Anna insisted, a new light in her eyes. "He wouldn't expect this. We could use surprise to our advantage, maybe even get crucial information." Lena seemed to consider the idea. "She has a point, Luca. One unexpected move could unsettle them." Luca ran his hands through his hair, clearly agitated. "It's too risky. I can't allow you to put yourself in danger like this." Anna walked over to him, touching his arm gently. "Luca, it's not your decision whether to allow it or not. It's my life, my choice. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can do something to change things." The look they exchanged was intense, full of unspoken emotions. Luca could see the determination in Anna's eyes, the same strength that had drawn him to her in the first place. "I'm not going to be able to convince you otherwise, am I?" he asked, his voice soft. Anna smiled, a sad but determined smile. "No, but I need to know that you'll be there for me through this." Luca took her hand, squeezing it lightly. "Always." Lena cleared her throat, breaking the moment. Well, if we're going to do this, we need a solid plan, and most importantly, we need to ensure Leo's safety. As if he understood that they were talking about him, the baby let out a happy gurgle. Anna hugged him tighter, kissing his head. Lady Mia can take care of him while we're away, she suggested. She's the only one I trust besides you guys. Luca nodded. I'll tighten the mansion's security. No one comes or goes without us knowing. The three of them spent the next few hours coming up with a detailed plan. Anna would contact Tony, pretending to want a reconciliation. The meeting would be in a public place, but with Luca and a security team nearby. When night fell, the ICE plan was set. Anna retired to put Leo to bed, leaving Luca and Lena alone in the operating room. You're getting too involved, Lena commented, watching her brother closely. Luca looked away, pretending to organize some papers. I don't know what you're talking about. Lena smiled understandingly. Luca, I've known you since I was born. I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at Anna. He sighed, finally looking at his sister. It's complicated, Lena. Our history, there's so much weight, so much guilt. Perhaps, she replied softly, but there is also redemption, forgiveness, and perhaps something more. Luca didn't answer, but his gaze drifted to the door Anna had left through. Lena was right, as always. Something was changing between them, something deep and frightening in its intensity. What none of them knew was that the events of the coming days would test not only their plan, but also the bonds that were forming. The approaching storm threatened to sweep away everything in its path, and only by uniting would they have a chance of survival. As the night wore on, the mansion prepared for what could be its most crucial battle yet. And at the center of it all, two hearts wounded by the past began to glimpse the possibility of a future together, even if they didn't yet dare admit it. Morning arrived with a palpable tension hanging over the mansion. Anna, after a restless night, was in the kitchen, rocking Leo to sleep while trying to force herself to eat something. Luca walked in, his tired eyes betraying that he hadn't slept much either. Are you ready? He asked softly, pouring himself a cup of coffee. Anna nodded, her determination visible despite her nervousness. As ready as I can be. Luca stepped closer, hesitating for a moment before placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. Remember, we'll be monitoring everything. At the slightest sign of danger, we'll intervene. I know, she replied, leaning slightly into his touch. I trust you. The look they exchanged was intense, full of unspoken emotions. It was Lena who broke the moment, entering the kitchen with a tablet in her hand. All set. The security team is in place, and we have access to the restaurant's cameras. The plan was simple in theory, but dangerous in practice. Anna had arranged to meet Tony at a busy downtown cafe. She would pretend to want a reconciliation, hoping to extract information about William's plans. Mrs. Mia showed up to pick up Leo, tears in her eyes as she said goodbye to Anna. I'll take care of him like he's my own grandson. Don't worry. Anna kissed her son, fighting back tears. Mommy loves you, my love. I'll be back soon. The drive to the cafe was silent. Luca drove, occasionally casting worried glances at Anna in the passenger seat. When they arrived, he parked a safe distance away. Remember, he said, taking her hand. Anything, use the code word and we'll leave immediately. Anna nodded, squeezing his hand back. For a moment they stayed like that, connected, as if they could transmit strength to each other through that simple touch. The cafe was bustling, just as planned. Anna spotted Tony sitting at a table in the back, his face a mask of false concern. Anna. He stood up, opening his arms as if to hug her. She stepped back subtly. Hello, Tony, she replied, sitting down. Thanks for coming. Of course, dear. I was so worried. You disappeared suddenly, taking our son. Anna had to suppress a shudder of revulsion when she heard Tony refer to Leo as our son. She forced a shaky smile. I needed some time to think. Tony leaned across the table, his eyes glowing in a way Anna knew all too well. It was the look that preceded his outbursts of anger. Think? And you had to run away for that? Do you know how much suffering you caused me? Anna took a deep breath, remembering the plan. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I wanted to talk, see if we could start over. The words burned in her throat, but she kept her composure. Tony smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Of course, my love. I always knew you would come back to me. We are family, after all. Meanwhile, in the car parked nearby, Luca watched the scene through a monitor, his fists clenched in frustration. He's lying, he muttered. Every word. Lena beside her placed a hand on her arm. Calm down. Anna knows what she's doing. Back at the cafe, Anna gently guided the conversation to the topics of interest. You seem to be doing well, Tony. Working on something new? Tony hesitated for a moment, and Anna saw a shadow pass over his eyes. Oh, you know, a few projects here and there. Actually, I'm about to close a big deal. Really? How wonderful. Anna forced enthusiasm into her voice. It must be something really important to get you so excited. Tony leaned in closer, lowering his voice. Oh, you have no idea. We'll be rich soon, Anna. We'll be able to give Leo the life he deserves. It was at that moment that something changed in the air. Anna felt it before she saw it, a familiar presence approaching. Her blood ran cold as the voice rang out behind her. Well, well, what a touching reunion. William Mendez, the man Anna knew only from photos and stories, stood there, a cold smile on his lips. In the car, Luca cursed, already moving to get out. Lena held him back. Wait, you haven't used the code word yet. Anna felt panic, rising, but she kept her outward calm. Tony? Who's your friend? Tony looked nervous now. Ah, this is William, a partner. William pulled out a chair, sitting down as if he had been invited. Partner is such a formal word. Let's just say I'm an old friend of the family. Your family, actually, Anna. Anna's heart raced. She knew she was quickly losing control of the situation. My family? I don't understand. William smiled, a smile that didn't reach his cold eyes. Oh, you do. You see, I've been thinking a lot about how to complete a puzzle I started 15 years ago, and you, my dear, are the final piece. It was at that moment that Anna realized she was not the hunter in this game. She was the prey. In the car, Luca couldn't take it anymore. Enough, I'm going. Before Lena could stop him, he was out of the vehicle and running toward the cafe. What followed was a chaos of rapid movements and muffled screams. Luca burst into the cafe, his eyes meeting Anna's in a moment of mutual understanding. William, surprisingly agile for his age, was already on his feet, pulling Anna by the arm. He hissed, I should have known you'd be behind this. Tony, confused, looked from one to the other. What's going on here? But no one had a chance to respond. The sound of sirens cut through the air, and suddenly the cafe was full of police officers. Federal police, everyone stop! In the chaos that followed, Anna managed to break free from William, running into Luca's arms. He hugged her tightly, as if he wanted to protect her from the entire world. William and Tony were quickly subdued and handcuffed, while frightened customers were escorted out. Lena appeared, panting. I called for backup as soon as I saw William. Looks like they arrived just in time. Anna, still in Luca's arms, was shaking. Leo, I need to see my son. Luca hugged her tighter, gently kissing the top of her head. Let's go home, it's over. But as they were escorted out, past William as he was loaded into a patrol car, the look the man gave Anna made it clear. This was far from over. The confrontation was over, but the real battle was just beginning, and in the midst of it all, two hearts wounded by the past discovered that together they were stronger than they ever imagined. The days that followed the confrontation in the cafe were a whirlwind of testimonies, investigations, and shocking revelations. The mansion, once a refuge, became the epicenter of an operation that shook the foundations of the Brazilian financial market. Anna, exhausted after hours of testimony at the federal police, found Luca in the mansion's library. He was on the phone, his voice tense as he argued with someone who appeared to be his lawyer. When he saw her, he quickly ended the call. "How are you?" he asked, concern evident in his eyes. Anna sighed, dropping into an armchair, tired, confused, relieved, all at the same time. Luca stepped closer, hesitating for a moment before kneeling beside her, taking her hands in his. "I know it's been hard, but you've been incredible. Your courage." "Our courage," she corrected him gently. "We couldn't have done it without you." The look they exchanged was intense, filled with unspoken emotions. For a moment, it seemed as if the world around them had disappeared, leaving only the two of them. The moment was broken by Lena's arrival, carrying a thick folder. "Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this." She spread a series of documents across the coffee table. They were bank records, contracts, and most shockingly, old photos. "What's all this?" Anna asked, leaning forward to examine the papers. Lena took a deep breath. "It's the full story. William's scheme, Tony's involvement, and the truth about your parents, Anna." Anna felt her heart race. Luca, noticing her agitation, placed a comforting hand on her back. "Your parents," Lena began softly, "were much more than innocent victims, Anna. They were informants." "What?" Anna exclaimed in disbelief. Lena continued. "Apparently his father discovered William's illicit activities by chance. Instead of reporting it immediately, he and his mother decided to gather evidence, working secretly with a special police unit." Luca frowned. "But that means—" "It means the accident was not an accident," Lena added. "It was a deliberate attempt to silence them. William found out they were about to hand him over." Anna felt the world spin. Her entire life, her entire history was being rewritten before her eyes. "So my parents were heroes?" "Yes," Luca replied softly. "Heroes who paid the highest possible price." Anna let the tears, held back for so long, finally flow. Luca wrapped his arms around her, offering the silent comfort of his presence. Lena continued, "There's more. Tony wasn't just a pawn in this game. He was deliberately planted in your life, Anna. William used him to keep you under surveillance, fearing that you might have some information left by your parents." The revelation hit Anna like a punch. Her entire relationship with Tony, the birth of Leo, had all been part of a larger, more sinister plan. "My God," she whispered. "Leo, he's safe," Luca assured quickly. "I've increased the mansion's security. No one will get near him." Anna gently pulled away from Luca's arms, walking to the window. The view of the garden, once a symbol of her imprisonment in this new life, now seemed like an oasis of peace. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice low but firm. Luca approached, stopping beside him. "William and Tony are in custody. The investigation is ongoing, but with the evidence we have, it is unlikely that they will escape justice." "What about us?" Anna turned to face him, her eyes searching his. The "we" hung in the air, loaded with meaning. Luca felt his heart race. "Anna, He hesitated, searching for the right words. "These last few months, despite all the madness, have been the most meaningful of my life. You and Leo, you've changed everything." Anna took a small step toward him. "Luca, when we first met, I hated you. Or I thought I did. But now—" "Now?" he encouraged, his voice barely above a whisper. "Now I know that fate has a strange sense of humor. The man I blamed for so long has become my safe haven." Luca raised his hand, gently touching Anna's face. She closed her eyes, leaning into the touch. "Anna, I know we have a complicated past. I know there's a lot to forgive. A lot to rebuild. But if you give me a chance, I promise—" She opened her eyes, meeting his. "Promise what?" "I promise to spend the rest of my life trying to make you happy. You and Leo." The kiss that followed was soft, hesitant, as if they both feared the other might disappear. When they broke apart, there were tears in both of their eyes, but also a glimmer of hope. Lena, who had discreetly left during the intimate moment, reappeared in the doorway. "Sorry to interrupt, but Leo's awake. I think he misses his mother." Anna smiled, the first truly happy smile in a long time. She held out her hand to Luca. "Shall we?" He laced his fingers through hers, feeling like he had finally found his place in the world. "Let's go." As they walked together to see Leo, they both knew the future still held challenges. There was a trial ahead, legal issues to resolve, and the long process of emotional healing. But in that moment, with their hands joined and hearts aligned, they felt they could face anything. The past had been painful, but the future was full of possibilities. The rising sun painted the city sky in shades of pink and gold, an apt metaphor for the new chapter that was beginning in Anna and Luca's lives. 6 months had passed since their confrontation at the cafe, and the world around them had changed drastically. On the porch of the mansion, now more of a home than a fortress, Anna watched Leo play in the garden. The boy, now almost 2 years old, was chasing a butterfly, his laughter echoing through the property. Luca approached silently, wrapping Anna in a hug from behind. "What are you thinking about?" he asked softly, resting his chin on her shoulder. Anna smiled, leaning back against him. How life can change in such a short amount of time. A year ago, I was on the streets, scared of my own past. And now? What now? Luca encouraged, gently turning her to face him. Now I have a family, a real one. The kiss they shared was sweet, full of promise for the future. They were interrupted by Leo, who came running, his little arms raised, asking to be held. "Mommy, Papa!" he exclaimed happily. Luca picked him up, his heart filling with love as he heard Leo call him Papa. Although he wasn't his biological father, in the last few months he had become, in every way that mattered, the father Leo deserved. "How about a picnic?" Anna suggested, stroking her son's hair. "We could call Lena and celebrate the good news." The good news Anna was referring to was plentiful. William and Tony's trial had ended the previous week, with both receiving lengthy sentences. The financial scheme had been completely dismantled, and many of the victims were being compensated. Most importantly, Anna's parents' memories had been cleared. They were posthumously recognized as heroes who sacrificed their lives in the fight against corruption. Anna could finally bid them farewell with pride and peace in her heart. Lena arrived shortly after, carrying a picnic basket and her usual, welcoming smile. The four of them settled into a shady corner of the garden, the grass soft beneath the plaid tablecloth. "So," Lena began, helping herself to a sandwich, "have you decided on the trip yet?" Luca and Anna exchanged a knowing look. "Yes," Luca replied. "We're going to Italy for a month. Anna has always wanted to see Tuscany." "And what will they do with the company?" Lena asked, an eyebrow raised. Luca smiled, taking Anna's hand. "We've decided to donate a significant portion of the profits to organizations that help homeless children. The rest will be invested in social projects here in the city." Anna added, "We want to use our story, our second chance, to make a difference in other people's lives." Lena nodded proudly. "You guys make quite a team." As they talked and laughed, enjoying the simplicity of the moment, Anna reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Every challenge, every tear shed, every moment of despair. It had all culminated in this moment of pure happiness. Luca, noticing her distant gaze, leaned in to whisper, "Is everything okay?" Anna smiled, tears of joy shining in her eyes. "Better than fine. I'm home." In that moment, with Leo happily playing, Lena sharing funny stories, and Luca by her side, Anna felt a peace she had never imagined possible. The past, with all its pain and secrets, could finally rest. The future, once so uncertain and frightening, now shone with promises of love, family, and purpose. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the four prepared to head back inside. Luca picked up the already dozing Leo in his arms, while Anna and Lena gathered up the remains of the picnic. Before entering, Anna paused for a moment, looking out at the city skyline. The city, with all its lights and shadows, had been the stage for her story of loss, struggle, and ultimately redemption. "Coming?" Luca called softly from the doorway, extending his free hand to her. Anna laced her fingers through his, feeling the warmth and security she now associated with home. "Always," she replied. As they walked inside together, Anna knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together. The journey had been long and painful, but the destination was more beautiful than she had ever dared to dream. And so, with the sun setting on one chapter of their lives and rising on another, Anna, Luca, Leo, and Lena entered. The mansion, no longer a symbol of isolation and secrets, but a true home full of love, forgiveness, and endless possibilities,